All right, ladies and gentlemen, we have C-tru in the house.
Yep.
Welcome to another episode of the Music Biz Club. How you been, man?
I'm good, man. Just you hanging in there. But first off, just like, hey, thank you for having me on this. You know, just everyone like out there listening and watching, like doing what you're doing, man. It's providing like an essential service that people really need right now, especially with the pandemic. So salute, brother, man. I'm glad that you're doing this and educating people and just teaching because that's what's important.
Well, you already know since we started the project back out in LA 2 years ago when you came through the Ask Gab Expo, just
Yeah.
going through the process, but we're here and we had some some big events planned, but everything just shut down.
Yeah.
So why don't you tell everybody about yourself and who you are?
Okay. C-tru. I am a singer-songwriter, artist, producer. A lot of people know me through one of my first big breaks was in Europe. I was able to tour there in 2012. From that, it led me towards meeting the right people, getting into songwriting, production, and also developing myself as an artist. Was able to catapult my success in Europe just recently in the past few years to stateside in LA with Snoop Dogg, DMX. Got some really dope singles out with them, million plus views, and so I've been blessed. You know what I mean? Like from that journey, starting off in just freestyle cipher battles, being unknown to just working my way up in the industry as an independent artist, and now reaching some level of in my career where I feel like, hey, I do have a career and I can live strictly off of music. And I think that's what most musicians here or people listening, independent artists, they want to be able to be making, be able to live full time off of music, right? So,
Yeah, definitely. So what would you say was like the start? What inspired you to become an artist
not,
before even getting your big breaks and doing the big tours and the Snoop Dogs and
uh,
everything?
you know, honestly, and I'm gonna tell this to every like, and this is what this is the question I like that you asked that because that's how I know. Depending on the answer I get, that's how I know what artists I'm working because I collaborate a lot with artists. Like if they're doing it for the right reason. For me, the truth is, it was a dream that I felt that was planted in my soul, like in heart, 100%. Because my parents are immigrants. They came here. This was not the route I was supposed to take music at all. But I just felt that urging even as a little kid. Like they have all these old tapes of me like dancing and singing like as like a 5-year-old, 4-year-old, 5-year-old. I love Michael Jackson, like dancing to his songs and whatnot. And I wasn't supposed to. It just wasn't like based on who I was. I wasn't supposed to be doing this, but I really did feel like God did plant like a seed in my heart, and I think everyone who's an artist, they come to it in many ways. But for me, it was something I could never get away from. You know what I mean? Like it really felt deeply embedded in my heart. And so as a kid growing up, I just always loved to entertain people. And then later on in my teenage years, listening to hip hop, that was my biggest influence. That just struck a chord with me. And I couldn't let go of it since. It became an obsession. And it became something that even when I was doing my 9 to 5, I was like, man, nah, I got to do this. Like, there's no way. Like, even if it made a fortune, like doing like my 9 to 5, I would not feel fulfilled because I wasn't doing my real purpose. And so I feel it did. It started for me in childhood, and a lot of the artists I've met, even some of the ultra successful ones, they said too, like it started off when they were kids. They knew it. You know what I mean? So.
So like, what are the qualities? Because you said a lot. It's a lots of ups and downs, and
Yeah.
most people who make it in the industry or make a sustainable brand, it takes years. So what are the qualities, at least from your perspective, or what you had to do? What are the qualities for an artist like yourself to become successful and become a full-time musician?
Okay, I would say the top two is number one is resiliency. That's resiliency. That no matter what happens, you're gonna pick yourself up, keep going. And number two is a huge belief in yourself. Because before anyone could believe in you, you gotta believe in yourself. You know, even if like I remember when I was starting off, like obviously when you start off, no one is great when you start off, but you have to have almost that like Kanye level sense of like confidence where you're like, I'm the baddest at this, I'm the best at this, you know, where you feel, because that's gonna push you on towards, you know, your goals, because if you don't have that confidence in yourself and belief in yourself, no one else is gonna believe it, right? So I think belief in yourself, and resiliency, because this journey, like, you know, it's full of ups and downs, and the people who make it, who finally make it, are the people that just kept going, because you never know. It's just like you could be at your last dollar, you know, like there's so many stories about that. You're sleeping on your friend's couch, and then you get your next break like the next day, you know, like that really, really does happen. But you're not going to get to that point if you just quit, right? When it gets tough. So it's, I would say, resiliency and that huge belief in yourself.
Right. You know, I've known you for a couple of years, and you know, going through the years and the process, we've met a lot of people. You know,
Yeah.
we've had a lot of mutual colleagues, and you know, a lot of us are now starting to live off the fruits of our effort, but a lot of people will fade off. So that leads into my next question. What is your motivation? What motivates you and your team to get from point A to point B to point C?
I love that. See that, man, dope question. I think for me, it's changed and evolved over time, which it should for any artist. If your motivation is still the same when you first started, and then you're like, you've couple years into it, if it's still the same, that means you have not experienced any growth. You really need to be growing. So I remember initially my first couple goals was like, man, I just need to get on. I need to get this certain level of not fame, but notoriety. People need to know me. I need to get my name out there. You know, build a level of resume, right? Have a respected resume of some hits under my belt, blah blah blah. Um, so I kind of have that now. Like I'm at like this midway, not, I wouldn't say midway point, but I'm at a good part of my career where I'm like, it's either a tipping point where like I could take it to the next level, and I'm ready to take it to the next level. So my motivation is, it's crazy, because you could, if I wanted to, I could just stay complacent and just be like, all right, I'll just be songwriting, do this once in a while, and I could be okay with that. But I realized that my motivation, my true motivation is still to have that worldwide platform for positive change. Just because that's what I believe in. That's what I've always believed in. I'm like, and to do that, you do need to be a superstar. You need to reach those thresholds, and you know, it's a lofty goal. And it's funny saying it out loud, but that's what it is. Because I know I'm not doing it for like money and the fame, the clout, and all that. It's because if I had that platform, there's so many things that I want to do. There's so many. Uh, a big part of what I do is like I help orphanages and kids, and so I feel like if I have this huge brand as an artist, um, I'm going to be able to get more sponsors. I'm going to be able to get more people to help that. Obviously, I'm still doing my part to do that, but for some reason, for me, I have that belief. Like my motivation is that through music, because that's my passion and my love, I can achieve this high enough platform where I can make the positive change that I dream of doing.
Right, definitely. So why don't you divulge into that the orphanages or your non-for-profit work? Because you know, like I tell people, uh, media and music and entertainment are great ways to build that platform. You can build a strong platform, a strong following within a matter of months or even a short term, within a short time. So using your platform, why don't you divulge into what your plans are, or at least what you're doing right now with what you're doing?
Right. Yeah. No. Thanks. I think for me, it started. It was like I think 2010 or 2012. I went back to the Philippines with my dad, and yeah, one of my aunts, she does run an orphanage for street kids, and for me, it just changed my perspective on the world. And I think that's why I encourage people to travel wherever you want to go. For me, obviously, this is my homeland, so it resonates with me. But I just saw there is no welfare there. Like for them, they still have to go to a well to get water, and it's just like when I saw how people live there, and I saw that their lack of opportunity. And this is not just the Philippines; it's all third world countries. It's many places. but this is what I saw firsthand. So that's what affected me. And I was like, I realized how blessed we are to be in the situation we are in where we live, in America. Because it's like here, like, yes, there's a lot of things that could hold you back, but there's opportunity for people to kind of to get out there. But in the Philippines or other third world countries, if your dad or mom is like a rice farmer or whatever, a farmer, you're probably gonna 99.9%, you're gonna probably end up being that way. And I felt so sad that I saw that there's this world of people, and that's, third world countries, there's a huge chunk of people that they believe that their cap on life is so limited because of what they see, and because they don't have the resources, or and they're struggling. While we're complaining about slow internet, they have a lack of food. You know what I'm saying? Lack of food and water, clean water. That's basic necessities. And I couldn't, like, something triggered within me, and I was like, no, I got to do something. So since that day, my family, we've been supporting the orphanage, and my hope is to open more orphanages, not just in the Philippines, but in other countries, and to get people to just to unite people to help the kids, because they are the future. And I just, like, you know what I mean? That for me is my goal.
Well, I mean, the story, the value behind what you're doing is most important, because it's more than just money and fame. I at least for me, I want to tell people it's all about legacy and what you're building.
Oh, I love that. Yeah, no, because I think that's what's cool, man. Like with our evolution, like when we first started off, we're talking about like, oh, we got to get on, we got to make it. And as we progress, we start realizing that there's a lot more to life than just that basic thing that everyone is after, the fame, money. Like you're saying, legacy, that's so important, because what you leave behind, that's what's going to impact future generations. You cannot take your money to the grave. You can't do nothing with that. You know what I mean? But your legacy, what you leave behind, like what I'm trying to do with orphanages, what you're doing with your mission-based, your platform, that lives on. You know what I mean? That really lives on. That's inspiring. That's enough that motivates me. You know what I mean? So, yeah.
Right. Definitely. I remember when we started, like, probably a lot of us had lofty goals, and then we reach our goals, and then it's like, okay, we got to move on to the next step.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it's crazy to see how the evolution, for those who've stuck in the game, I see how we've accomplished our goals and where we're at right now. But getting back to it, being an artist, like, what was that tipping point where you crossed over and you had the platform to live full-time off of being an artist, touring, being recording sessions, and the whole 9 yards? What was that turning point for you?
I think there were a lot of turning points. I think, just like with all independent artists, like who start off, you're gonna go through that period of time where you're building the wall. It's like one brick at a time. You know what I mean? And one of my favorite people in the world, that's where I got the story from. Brick by brick, a wall is built. And it was I first heard it through Will Smith, who's going through some entanglements right now. But but that resonated with me, because it for a long period of time, it's gonna feel like you're doing something, but nothing's happening, right? But little do you know that those building blocks, like for me, it was just early on, just doing every single contest. I entered every single contest I could, joined every single battle, started just building reputation up. And then you do that, you make your presence known, someone's gonna find you. For me, the first tipping point was meeting Swiss Ivory, and that was just online. It was like I won a contest. He liked my songs on, I don't even know, it was like SoundCloud, and then we linked up. And then he moved to Europe from Boston, and then we just kept in touch. And he became a radio DJ and a bigger DJ there. And I made mixtapes in Europe. Instead of doing it, I made mixtapes in Europe, and then it started popping off there. So I was able to tour there. And then that tipping point when that was the first tipping point. The second tipping point was when I realized I could actually sell out shows there. And I was like, okay, so that means something. Like, my music's resonating. And then from there, the next tipping point was being able to work with DMX. And that was, again, through my success at Europe and through the people I worked with, Swiss Ivory specifically, having the managers listen to my stuff. And then from the success of that, the next tipping point was Snoop. So that's what I'm saying. Like, I think it was a lot of little tipping points, but the whole purpose of that was to say that it started with those bricks, man. That just staying home at 3 a.m. writing all, you know, because I had a 9 to 5, and then when it clocked out, then I gotta go home and, you know, record in my room, like, you know what I'm saying, and just like freeze out till I fall asleep and just write. Those are all the building blocks. Like, go into every contest. I was like 3-4 years. So it really is true. You got to put the 10,000 hours in, and when you build those bricks, that's where you find the tipping point, because you're going to be high enough where you can tip over to the next level up. You know what I mean?
Right. And you said something, well, since I've known you for a little bit, I know you've had like, I wouldn't maybe struggles, or I wouldn't say struggles, but you know, you started building your brand outside from your home base, and you know, the US is like the mecca. Everybody wants to go to LA or go to New York or be in Miami if you're Latin America, or you know, Atlanta if you want to do hip hop.
Mm-hmm.
But you know, there's other pockets outside the United States. So like, given that you started getting your accomplishments outside the United States, what advice would you give to an artist, like in terms of just like looking at different places outside the United States, whether they want to come in or whether they're here? What advice would you give to an artist, like in terms of like branching out and looking for different opportunities outside this Goliath of what we call the US market?
Right. I would say get it where you can get it, which means basically be open-minded with your music and know that, you know, if you're making quality music, it's going to resonate. It doesn't have to resonate in your home market. Make sure you expand, you know, like it's like not the weirdest thing, but it's an interesting thing that, you know, when I look through some of my plays, like I'll get like emails from someone in like Denmark, and who's just like, hey man, my English is not very good, but I love your song. Send me your lyrics or something. Like, it's amazing that it reaches out there, but it does. Your music does get out. So I would say get it where you can get it, which means that if something is not hitting right now in the US for your sound, that does not mean that it doesn't work. It could mean that maybe your music's too ahead of its time. Like, the US market is not ready for it yet. So that for me is one of those jumping up, like, it means you should pivot, which means like, okay, let's see, my style of music, my genre, where else is it like popping off? Like, you look around, like, you know, maybe it's popping off in Latin America or it's in Europe. So you find those bases and you try to, at that point, then you market music towards that kind of demographic and see what happens. But definitely never, ever stay complacent. If you know, if you feel like your music's not popping in one location, it could be just a situation. It could be situational. It could be just because that location is not working, and you could try another one. You know what I mean? Right.
So let's talk about the number one hits, the chart, or at least the charting hits in Asia and Europe. How did that come about?
Okay, so that came about again through. That's what I'm just saying. Like, and I really truly believe this. It's if you're a positive person and you put that out, it's like part of it is like law of attraction. I mean, that's how we met. A lot of our circle met early in ASCAP. Like, highly motivated individuals who are positive and doing it for the right reason, you will find each other. I mean, there's a lot of, I can tell you a bunch of horror stories of like the horrible people in the industry. There's horrible people in every industry, whether it's like corporate America, but especially in the music, entertainment, and TV and film, there's a lot. But if you are a good person and you put out the right energy out there, you know what I mean? It will come back to you. And so for my stuff in Asia, what had happened was 2016 it was just my second year in LA, just because I put it out there to the world, to all my friends. Hey man, like, I'm an artist, I'm doing this, but I'm also a songwriter. And because I put it out there and I was a positive person, I had a friend who's not even in the music industry, but knew somebody who was like, hey, I have another friend who's actually working with a pretty big company overseas. Go meet with this guy. But again, if you're a good person, you know, people want to connect you. And if you're showing, like, obviously have talent, work hard, and so your skills are up to par, But if you're a good person, that's that last ingredient. That's an X factor because people want to help good people. They're like, man, this guy, C-tru, like he's just a positive dude. He's always helping people without being asked for. Like, and that's just what it was. I just liked helping people. And so like, I'm gonna help him out. Let me connect him with this guy. So one of my friends connected me to Edmund Perlas, who's another songwriter who had already been writing for the Asian market. And then he was like, man, I really like your raps. And we started songwriting together. And then it started taking off. Actually, it took off for both of us. Actually, his career trajectory actually rose after he met me, and same with mine with him. And so that's how you know you get aligned with the right people. You guys kind of come up together. So that's how that happened. Like a lot of the collaborations I did with Alden Richards, kind of like the Justin Bieber in the Philippines, Julianne San Jose, Lonnie. These are just like really big artists overseas. It happened because of just, again, connections. And I guess that goes to what like our whole ASCAP thing, which is like networking. But I think networking is useless if you don't have the right energy, right?
Well, you have to also cultivate the relationships, because let's say for me and you, if we're not constantly communicating, or at least occasionally, then it's just useless. And I remember going to the ASCAP years ago, and then there were people who would just go to the ASCAP and they didn't want to network with anybody, which was weird, but that's the whole point.
But aside from that, yes, we have kept in touch over the years, but a big part, I think, is just for me, I'm kind of choosy about who I want to spend my time with or give my time to. And you've always been one of those individuals, like from the heart, man. I was like, just a good person, and someone I was like, yo, this is someone that I want to build with. So, and that's why I was saying, like, if you have not have that quality, if you really technically, if you want to help others, it's going to come back to you. Like that's the biggest lie in the industry, that there's not enough resources around, so people are selfish and try to like backstab each other and betray each other and whatnot. That's so false. If there's enough for everybody, and we all just help each other, we can all make it together, and it'll be done in a much better way.
I totally agree. So being that you've had charting songs overseas in very sizable markets like the Philippines and in Europe, what do you think? Do you think record labels are important today, or as important as they were before? Or could independent artist like you, who wants to make a living off of this, can actually go out there and do it, or they need to go get a record label? Because that's a big topic in the music industry. It's always been a big topic since the shift into digital. But there's resources. So I just want to see what your perspective is on the music and the record label.
Nice. So from my perspective, I feel it all depends on what you want as an artist, what you want to get out of it. Like right now, especially with COVID going on, but because we have the internet, online, everything, you can actually make your own sizable following. It's going to be harder, right? Because now everyone has access to the internet, everyone's online, TikTok and everything. There's a lot of mess to sort through, but if you can make yourself stand out in a unique way, you can actually do it without the record labels, because you could get enough of a following yourself. But the second point is, record labels right now, they're not the only thing, but the big usage of them is just their access to the infrastructure, which is, let's say you want to be on radio. You just need to, through the major labels, they pay the direct channels, right? And I don't think people realize that that's the big plus with the record labels, because they're making money off SoundScan. They're also contributing certain money to radio stations to get it played. And it trickles back down to everyone, like, the whole system. There's like publishing involved. It's like a whole cycle. But, like this about advances. It's like, it's you got to recoup it and all that. But just to answer your question, really, people can do it without a record label right now. It's going to be, it's not impossible, but it's harder just because there's more people out there. So you have to rise up. And it depends on who you are as an artist. Like, are you willing to take that challenge? Because like, there is a lot of, you know, I don't want to call any music out there bad, but it might not be up to your taste, but music is music, but there's a lot of it out there. And there's a lot to weed through. So how are you going to make yourself stand out? With a record label, they can make you stand out like that because you'll be under the system. But at the same time, they're going to be taking 85, 90% of everything you make. But it's easier if you're not a developed artist and you don't have the team or the grind to do it yourself, then yeah, I mean, go with the label. But if you have the flex of your own stuff and you feel like you can do it yourself, then you can. It's definitely possible.
So I think that's very interesting. I think that there's a lot of resources out there. You can build a team.
Mm-hmm.
You just have to find the right team because it's all about quality. Not everybody is the right fit for you or is even qualified. But in all of that, at least from your perspective or what you've done, how do you build that capital? How do you get the capital or the leverage to build an independent brand and be sustainable for yourself? Without the record label.
Right.
Or aside from that.
I think the key word there is what you said is brand. So people gotta know you as something. It's like regardless of any marketing or advertising you do, it starts with your brand, like who you are, what do you represent, And so for me, it started building up my brand. It's like just having, I guess for me, it was my sound, just having a unique tone when I rap that just people just like, it stood out and just being who I was. And I guess that lends itself to being just authentic to you, who you are as an artist, Like I think if right now people are trying to copycat everything else, and that's gonna do you a disservice. What I mean? You're gonna sound like everybody else. But if you find your own authentic sound, what resonates with you, that becomes your brand. And it might start off small, like your brand could be just a niche, like only certain people like it, but it can grow. So I think it starts with a brand, and as you build your brand and you develop it, people are gonna follow. People are gonna be like, hey, I like this sound. And then, like at least in my case, it was with the majors. They'd be like, oh, our major artist likes your sound because it's different. Like they want to collab, so you're bringing something new to the table. You know what I mean? With your brand. So that's like, I would say, hugely important. So for artists like starting off, aside from obviously having some good tracks and making sure really not only your homeboys like it, but really to test it out with people that it really is something that resonates, is know what your brand is, like what you're going to represent, because that's what's going to draw listeners to you, and that's what's going to make like the industry notice you. They'd be like, I like what that brand represents, so I'm going to use that,
Right. So yeah, I mean, like you talked about the nonprofit work and what you plan to do. And I think brands, if you look at all the major artists or all the big artists, the ones who stayed around for a long time, they have a brand, but they're also doing other things to build that brand. It's just not about music. So I know you've done some entrepreneurial things outside of music, outside of social entrepreneurship. What other things are you doing that you plan or is helping you grow your brand for the next 5, 10, 15 years and beyond?
Oh, hey, great question. And actually, this is something that we probably will talk about offline here. Starting, it was early last year, I'm a co-founder of a new company. It's called Archivia, and it's TV, film, and entertainment. It's kind of like an entertainment studio with have two really great partners, Ace and Rich, and both of them they have experience working with like Comcast, NBC Universal, CAA. So I'm actually delving, which is good. I'm glad that's so funny that segue there. But aside from music, yes, just using my experience in music and entertainment in the industry, I'm lending it to this company as one of the co-founders and president of it, towards the music side and also in TV film development. So, for example, like let's say our studio, like right now we can't really talk too much about what we're doing because we don't have a press release ready yet, and there's certain things. But for certain TV shows that we will be having come out soon, like on Netflix, because I'm part of the company and because I'm managing it, that's there's publishing there. There's publishing opportunities for music, right? Or and that just shows that that as an artist, you want to grow into something that feels natural for you. For me, I love people. I love being around new ideas and art and entertainment, whether it's TV, film, any art medium. I just love art. So that's why for me it was a natural thing to be part of the company, because I'm still an artist, but I'm able to give that artist perspective in the company. And that makes more artists want to come work with the company because they're like, okay, cool. There's a guy that actually gets it, but also is business minded enough. And I know since he's been around it, we could trust, you know what I mean? Like that the structure is going to be right. So one of the other things I'm doing is the company, entertainment company, Arcavia. And we have a lot of stuff coming out soon.
Yeah, that's wonderful, man. So since we're almost out of time, we're running out of time here, but what I want to ask you, what is one mistake that was pivotal in your career that you really learned from, that brought value and you made into a positive to go out there and make yourself successful?
Ooh, wow. I love that question. There's so many, there's so many, there's a lot of things. There's a lot of things that I could think of saying right now for that one. I think one major one, okay, yeah, all right. Wow, shoot, man. So ASCAP, what was the first ASCAP we went to? Was that 2014?
Well, I met you at 12. I went to 2012 or 2011. That was
Yeah,
my first.
yeah, it was one of the early ones. And so you're talking about like major regrets. I remember I had like one of those A&R sessions, so like listening sessions to some of my songs, and I wasn't prepared. Number one, my songs weren't mixed right. Like it was like one of those things where I'm like, I felt like I could do it myself, or I had one of my homies mix it, and I just realized now in retrospect, I'm like, you're crazy. You're gonna be in front of a professional. Just pay the money to get it professionally mixed, and then just do it. And I did it. And then when they heard it, I think it was Ice Standard. I was accepting Ice Standard, one of the songs, and the song almost blew out the speaker because it wasn't mixed right. And I was like, you gotta be. So here I'm up on stage representing my song, and the speaker blows out. They had to lower it down. It wasn't bumping. I'm like, you gotta be kidding me. I was like, really? Right now? I'm like, this just happened. So, yeah, one of my biggest regrets is obviously not being prepared. But hey, guys, if you're doing this for real, like music, spend the money on it. Get it professional. If you're looking for professional results, get it done. You know, pay that extra money to get the stuff professionally done. You know, preparation is everything. But again, it's like, luckily, I mean, I saw. There were still more opportunities after, but what if I had blown my like one chance because I'm on stage and my music wasn't mixed right and just blew up the speakers? Like that's that sucks. But that's one of my biggest regrets. That I think at the beginning, the reason why I probably didn't get it mixed professionally was because I was like still unsure. Like, oh, am I really gonna be an artist? Blah blah blah. So once you guys decide, no middle ground. It's either you're all in, or you're not. If you're all in, really go all in. Like that means devote the resources, money towards it to make it work. Otherwise, it's not going to work.
Of course, you have to be professional, and people are not going to take nothing less.
Yeah.
So, but what are three things that you would advise to the 18-year-old, the 17-year-old, the 20-year-old who just graduated high school and they're like, I want to do this, or I'm thinking about doing this? And what are 3 points you would tell them or give to them in order for them to be successful in this game?
I would say, don't even start. Just go to McDonald's, and that's all you know, or Best Buy. Get a job there instead. You know, at least it's stable income. No, I'm just kidding. No. Okay, if you're gonna do it, like I said, that's why I mentioned the whole Best Buy. Like, you really got to figure out what you want in life. Like the music game, entertainment field, as you know, it's not for the faint of heart, and it's not to take away from anyone. Like, oh, you're scared to do it, why not? But music game industry is just like entrepreneurship. Nothing's gonna be guaranteed, and you got to be okay with that. You have to be okay with uncertainty. I have a lot of friends, good people. They don't like uncertainty in their life, so they're gonna, do the 9 to 5, which is fine. That's what they want to do. Not everyone's gonna be built for it, and the only reason why I say that is not to discourage people, but it's to just give the real, because you don't want to, like, definitely go for your dreams, but you have to be prepared for it. And number one, expect the disappointments. So it's not always going to be easy. It's not always rosy in the beginning. It's like I said, brick by brick. That's number one. Number two is do it for the right reason. Because if you're doing it just to make money, you can make money a lot quicker, faster in other avenues, other businesses. But if you're doing it for the right reason, even when you're not making money, that's what's going to push you through, because you have a higher goal, a higher motivation why you're doing it. So do it for the right reason. And honestly, money and fame is not the right reason. It's usually not the right. I mean, it could work for some people. From what I know, it hasn't worked, because when you go through the lowest of lows, when you get that rejection, or you have that first betrayal by a management team after you put so much work into it, and you want to give up, and you just like, you feel like crawling in a hole, money, that's not going to help you at all. That's not going to make you feel better at all. So I'd say do it for the right reason. And number three is one of the principles I said, which is resiliency, which is be able to just you have to be able to keep coming back up, because it's not a race. It's not a 150-yard dash race. No, it's actually a marathon. You know what I mean? So take your time with it, and try your best to enjoy the journey. Like that's, at this point in my career, that's what I'm trying to focus on, like enjoying the journey and the step of the way. Like in the beginning of my career, yes, I was ultra focused on certain goals that I kind of almost forgot, like, hey, I should be enjoying this moment, right? And it was weird, because just last week I was journaling and writing, just like free word association, just to help for me spark creative writing. And I started to write about, the past like 8-10 years of what I was doing. And I was like, my realization was, even though those hard moments, struggling, the doubts in myself, and people weren't accepting me, whatever, it was all worth it. It was all worth it, because I knew I was doing something worthwhile, because that's what was in my heart. That was in my soul. So I was like, wow, even when I was stressed out, I looked at it, I was like, I was stressed out at that moment, but I met this person, and it was dope. It was fun. And I saw these old pictures, and I was like, man, that was amazing. Like, if I look back, it was all worthwhile, man. It actually was.
It's all about the journey, man. And we're here. We're here, man. Like, it's crazy. Like, it's crazy when like you look on the walls, and sometimes people we were in that room in Hollywood a couple years ago, and now they have plaques on the wall. I'm like, this is crazy. But you can't give up, Most of those people gave up, but the people who stuck, we're still here, and we're doing big things, and I can't be happier. Well, why don't you tell everybody where they can find you, and then we'll end this call, man.
Yeah, no doubt. C-tru. You can find me online, c-tru.com. I'm on Instagram too, at ctru.music, ctru.music. So man, check me out there, y'all.
All right, thanks, y'all. Thank you, C-tru. This was wonderful. I love it, and see you guys later.
Blessings. See y'all.